Dear students, welcome back to the class. In the last class, we discussed about the four aspects of systematics. Systematics, it was the branch of science that studies about the different groups of living organisms, or in very simple ways, it studies about the diversity of life forms here on the surface of Earth. And in that, it included four aspects. Those were identification, classification, nomenclature, and taxonomy. In today's class, we are going to discuss about those four aspects in details, and mainly the aspects such as classification, nomenclature, and taxonomy. In the last class, we ended with taxonomy and we studied about a related term which is related to taxonomy. To be very simple, taxonomy, it is the branch of biology that deals with the framing of laws and principles which is required for the classification of living organisms with respect to the evolutionary relationship between these organisms. Now, some of you may have this question in mind that systematics and taxonomy, they are the same thing or they have the same meaning, because systematics that also deals with describing, naming and classifying the living organism, and taxonomy that also says the same. So some scientists, they call these two terms to be synonymous. That means they have the similar meaning, but there is a difference there. Systematics, that is the broader term, and taxonomy, it is in the whole science which is called the systematics. Systematics, it is the branch of science that is as a whole that studies about the diversity of life forms, and taxonomy, this is specialized to study those life forms while applying some laws and principles along with the evolutionary aspect. Now, let's discuss in detail what does taxonomy holds for. Now, taxonomy, it is generally studying about the whole group of living organisms based on their genetic similarity, dissimilarity, morphological similarity, dissimilarity, and many other aspects including habitats, nature, etc. So there are many ways to classify a living organism, and taxonomy, it frames those laws or the principles to classify such living organism, and in that it have certain categories or certain groupings, or you can say levels or ranks. These levels or ranks which comes under taxonomy to classify the living organism are called as taxonomic categories. The taxonomic categories are from the highest to the lowest, includes kingdom, division or phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Mainly these are the levels or ranks that the living organism are arranged for. As for example, what is kingdom? So from your school onwards, you have studied that there are two types of living organism. Those are plants and animals. So that is the one, the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. Plant kingdom and the animal kingdom, they are again subdivided into division of phylum, class, order, family, genus and species. Now let's try to understand the taxonomic categories with the help of this chart. So here comes the first level or rank, that is the kingdom. So kingdom is the highest category in the biological classification, where many members, they have the same characteristics, such as there are two kingdoms, that is Plantae and Animalia, where the plants, they have root, stem and leaf, and animals, they do not have such kind of root, stem and leaf. Plants, they have cell wall in their on their cells, then animals, they do not have the cell wall. So these are some basic characteristics that we have in common amongst the animals. Then the animal kingdom, it is again divided into phylum. So phylum is a group of related animals. And here, in case of the animal kingdom, there are two phylums. One is Chordata and the another one is non-Chordata. Chordata are those which have the vertebra, and those animals are like fishes, frogs, snakes, birds, mammals like us, etc. So we all have the vertebrata. So we are placed under the division Chordata. Now if we again go on to classify the Chordata, then we get 6 classes, and those 6 classes are Pisces, then Amphibia, Reptilia, Apes and Mammalia. So here we have considered the class Mammalia because they have the common characteristics of having hairs and milk glands, and they generally give birth to their young ones. So that is the class which is called as Mammalia. So we belong to the class Mammalia. The class Mammalia, it is again divided into order. So order is a group of related families. Say for example, the family of cats, that is Felidae. The family of dogs, that is Carnivora. That is Canidae. So they all belongs to the order Carnivora. So cats and dogs, lions, etc., they have large canine teeth and they are generally the flesh eaters. So they are under the order Carnivora. Then the order Carnivora, it is again divided into family. So family is a group of related genera. Say for example, the genera for cat, that is Felis. The genera for lion, tiger, leopard, that is Panthera. And they belong to the same family which is called as Felidae. Then comes genus. Genus is a group of species where again more common characters are found. As for example, the Felis catus, that is cats. Then fox, they have also such type of species. Similarly, Panthera tigris, that is the tiger. Panthera leo, that is the lion. So these are the genus, and finally comes the species. So species, that is the lowest unit of classification, and generally the members, they have the common characters and they have the ability to interbreed among themselves. So that is the species. So here the species, it is in case of Felis, that is catus, those are the cats, and for Panthera, the species, it is tigris for tiger, leo for lion, etc. So I hope that with the help of this chart, you are able to now understand what does taxonomic categories mean. So after studying the taxonomic categories, now let's again discuss a term which is called as taxonomic hierarchy. So taxonomic hierarchy, it is quite simple. It is the sequential ordering of the taxonomic categories, that is only called as taxonomic hierarchy. Hierarchy means sequence. Now, if we sequence or make a proper events or make it a proper event, then what we will find that kingdom, that is the largest category that we have discussed. Then after kingdoms comes phylum or division, that is the second largest. So in that way, the taxonomic categories, based on the similarities and dissimilarities, it ends in species, which is the simplest or the smallest unit of classification. And this ordering, the systematic ordering of these taxonomic categories, either from the higher to the lower taxa or from lower to higher taxa, it is only called as taxonomic hierarchy. Now let's discuss about the term nomenclature in details. Nomenclature, very simply, it means the naming of a particular organism. It is called as nomenclature. So in the last class, as I have said, that there are generally two types of name. That is the common name and there is one scientific name. And in common name, if you want to add it, then there is a local or vernacular name. Say for example, potato. So if I potato say here and my video goes all over the world, then definitely they will also understand that to what object or which living species that I am talking about. But if I say aloo, are they going to understand that what is the object that I am referring to? Aloo, that is our local name. Even in fact, in local name also there are very many variations. In Hindi, aloo, that is called as batata. Similarly, scientific name of potato, that is called as Solanum tuberosum. Now these are the various names which is given to a particular plant species. In that way, all of the living organisms, they have such names. Say for example, our scientific name, that is Homo sapiens sapien, and commonly we are known as human being or man. But there are ways of using these names. There are some advantages and disadvantages regarding this name. So now let's discuss why names are required, what are the advantages and disadvantages of common name, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of a scientific name. The importance of a name, that is because we have to represent an object with something. Without a representation, we cannot communicate with each other. That is why every object is given a certain name. Say for example, to tube light, fan, mobile phone, earphone, headphone. So what are these? All these are names based on their function, based on their availability. So there may be different criteria related to naming a particular object, and this as a whole, that is called as what? Nomenclature. Now we are discussing about living organisms. We know that names are essential to distinguish one organism with the other. So these common names, they are given from the earliest time, and in that way it have been landed down from generation to generation. There are some advantages of giving a common name. Say for example, common names are short, they are easy to write, they are easy to memorize, and we are familiar with this common name right from our childhood. So there are a very few advantages of these common names, but there are disadvantages also, because a common name, it can be unscientific. Common names, they have wrong impression. That means it does not describe the object with its meaning. Say for example, a jellyfish. So all of you may have come across this word jellyfish. Jellyfish. So we know, we have a certain impression of a fish. But jellyfish, that is a coelenterate. Dogfish. Does it resemble with that of a dog? No. So there are various wrong impressions based on a common name. A common name may be ambiguous. Ambiguous means with the same word, they may have many objects or many organisms. They are represented with the same word. Say for example, touch me not plant. Touch me not plant, we call it for Mimosa pudica, again for this balsam plant. Duta plant ase Mimosa pudica buli aru eta ase balsam plant. E dutar name ekei hoy, touch me not. Common names, they are ambiguous. They are not of same meaning, and they are used for different organisms. Generally, the common names, they do not have a definite meaning, and sometimes they are given just to have a certain impression, or we can represent it as fantasticalness. They are given fantastic name without any kind of meaning. So as a whole, the common name, it doesn't give a proper idea about a particular organism. Therefore, we generally discard the common names while studying systematics or taxonomy. And in that, we use the scientific names for all the living organisms. Say for example, bacteria, that is the common name, but bacteria, they are again of different types, such as lactobacillus, clostridium, pneumococcus. These are all scientific names. And in that, the scientific name, it is represented by a certain way of nomenclature, and this is called as binomial nomenclature. Carolus Linnaeus, he was the person to devise the binomial nomenclature in order to write scientific name, so that the problems which were associated with the common name doesn't come, and it is generally can be used by everyone in the world. Now let's see, what does binomial nomenclature mean? Carolus Linnaeus, he is called as the father of taxonomy because he have studied extensively about the diverse forms of living organisms, and he came up that a name should have two words in it. Say for example, our names, that too have two words. Generally it have two words. That is, one is the surname, or that is the family name, and our individual names. In that way, the scientific names that is also known by the last two categories of taxonomic categories. Those are the genus and the species. The use of genus and species to represent a name is called as binomial nomenclature. For example, the scientific name of potato that I have stated here is Solanum tuberosum. Solanum is the genus name and tuberosum is the species name. Homo sapiens sapien. Homo genus name, sapien that is the species name. Mangifera indica, which is the scientific name for mango. Mangifera that is the genus name, indica that is the species name. The binomial nomenclature is written with the help of some codes, and there are 5 codes of binomial nomenclature, and these codes are International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, that is ICBN, which was published in 1961. Then International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, which is ICZN. Then International Code of Bacteriological Nomenclature, ICBN. International Code of Virological Nomenclature, and International Code of Cultivated Plants. So these are the 5 codes which is used internationally to name a binomial nomenclature or scientific name. Now let's come to the rules of binomial nomenclature. A scientific name is written under some important rules. So the first rule of binomial nomenclature is that the scientific name should be drawn from Greek or Latin words only. So a scientific name should always be written in either a word which is from a Greek origin or from a Latin origin. And say if a word it is from some other language, then it should be Latinized. For example, the banyan tree, whose scientific name is Ficus bengalensis. Here, the species name, it is derived from the word Bengal, where the banyan tree is commonly found. So, the word Bengal, it has been Latinized to bengalensis, and hence the genus name is Ficus, but the species name is bengalensis. Then the second rule is that scientific name should be written in italics while in printed form. So as you have seen in the example, Homo sapien, so that is written in italics form. And if it is written in handwritten form, the names are underlined separately. That means the genus name and the species name, that is underlined separately, and that is a very important rule that we need to follow. Then comes the third rule. It is that the generic name or the genus name should always begin with a capital letter and the species name should begin with a small letter. So from the example, as we have seen, Homo, the first word the first letter H, that is always capital letter. But in case of the species name sapien, the first letter is S, and that is in the small letter. And the fourth rule is that the name of the author is to be written followed by the genus or the species name if it is described in technical terms. Say for example here Mangifera indica Linn. That means Mangifera indica, it was given by Linnaeus or Carolus Linnaeus. Now next come to classification. So we know that classification is the scientific ordering of the living organism on the basis of their hierarchy, and it is generally on the basis of different characters such as morphology, anatomy, genetics, biochemical, and evolutionary aspects of a living organism. Biological classification, it is generally of three types. These are artificial system of classification, natural system of classification, and phylogenetic system of classification. All these classifications are done on the basis of criteria such as morphology, anatomy, cytogenetics, biochemical level, molecular level, numeric level, etc. The artificial system of classification generally is done on the basis of the external and the internal features of a living organism. And here the propounders were Carolus, Linnaeus, Aristotle, etc. Now comes the natural system of classification. So natural system of classification, again, it is on the basis of morphology, anatomy, but here some new characters were added so that classification becomes more easy and convenient. So such characters which were added were like studying genetic differences between the living organisms, then comes the biochemical aspects of the living organism, as well as the numerical aspects of the living organism. So there are many characters that generally is incorporated in case of natural system of classification to classify the different groups of organisms into the various taxonomic categories of the hierarchy. And lastly comes the phylogenetic system of classification. So this is the type of classification that is followed now till the present time, because the phylogenetic system of classification, in addition to the others, that generally gives value to the evolutionary relationship of the living organisms, the relationship of the closely related one. In that way, the biological classification, it is further discussed in our next chapter. This is the end of today's class. Hope all of you have understood what was explained in the class. And if you have any doubt, please try to clarify your doubts. Thank you.